Hey everyone, Internet PCS book reader here. Today I want to talk about Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. The author R.F. Kuang is one of the few modern authors whose work I've read from top to bottom, from the trilogy that became a debut, The Poppy War, which I thought will be based on the Poppy War where Britain illegally used force to sell poppies that was banned in the country to China, a history that in Britain is still sometimes told as if they're the good guys, but it is not. The Poppy War trilogy, although involves a theme of colonialism and ethnic cleansing too, is closer to the Avatar The Last Airbender, but the power of the characters are tuned to the guts of the story which drives them a bit crazy. But it is unfortunately nowhere near as good as Avatar. A lot of the plot in the story, especially what the character can do, is often abandoned or forgotten in the next story, and the character development is very flawed despite it being a trilogy. But some element of the story that is good is later on used in her next work, Babel, which is actually based on Britain's illegal poppy war with China and is actually really good. The magic on the story is based on the process of translating one language to another and imbued to a specific kind of meta in the story, which is very creative. But what makes it a masterpiece is that it is also a story about occupation and the resistance in a form of dark academia story. And then after back-to-back story with fantasy elements, she came out with Yellowface, a dark comedy drama about a white woman who got the unread script of her Asian friend who died choking on food and decided to release it herself. Although a very creative plot, but the execution is a bit lacking in some parts where there are parts of the story which feels unnecessary. And then there is no news for her until suddenly there is a pre-order for this book Katabasis which I immediately got. The story is back to magic fantasy where the main character Alice Lau had to go to hell, literally, because her professor at Cambridge who she needs to grade her thesis died before she can grade her work. The information on the magic to go to hell, tetrarology, is difficult to get not because it's forbidden magic, but because there are only a handful of people who survive the trip to hell and back. But despite the difficulty, she managed to draw the sigil that she is confident enough can get her to hell, save her teacher, and get back. After all the preparation, she steps into the teleportation sigil about to go to hell, but a fellow student, Peter Murdoch, a prodigy that she hated for being someone who showed no effort in the academy but all the accomplishments simply because he's a genius. There's of course a bit of character drop here that I've read recently from something like Atlas Paradox recently, where they might become enemy to lover, but for now, recognizing that Alice is trying to go to hell, he decided he wanted to join and he even changed the skill effortlessly so that he can teleport both of them instead of just her. She preferred to do it alone, but unfortunately she did not have the complete information on how to solve the trials in hell because Peter has been borrowing a lot of the books she needs since she's also been researching going to hell for the same reason as her, bringing their professor back. And because she have only so much time until her research fund dries, she reluctantly agreed. And also the professor Grimes died because of her anyways, as with academia students trying to get their doctorate or funding, she has been sleepless for months. She was about to take a little break when the professor asked for her assistance on an experiment, which she takes because it is a rare chance. But worn out and anxious, she made a mistake in her sigil, killing the professor. The only reason she was not in prison was because the professor never credited the student for assisting him. And unfortunately for her, he is the only professor good enough for what she wants to achieve, so she and Peter went on their journey to hell. And albeit some shaky start from teleporting to hell, they succeeded and now the only way out is to go through hell and get the permission from the ruler of the underworld to go out. But first, they want to find their professor. The first person they meet was not a person, let alone the professor. He was the academy's cat Archimedes, just taking a stroll through hell. They try to ask for her help, but she ignored them and goes away. And then the second group they met was the professor's first victims. Four students that burned themselves to death because of his negligence to teach his students. They told the pair that the professor went on a line to go to the next stage, the later river where the dead forget their past life. But they choose to stay where they are, afraid of moving on and forgetting who they were, privileged student at Cambridge, for fear of being born poor or worse, poor at third world countries. They choose to haunt hell in the same spot as their souls slowly decay because of that. It's a really well done subtle writing of Western chauvinism and how stupid it is. But from them they got some information that the professor went ahead of line and goes to the next area, but the ghosts were too aware and hostile of them to do the same, so they climbed the wall of bones that separated the area. They decided to rest for the day. Because Peter did not bring any blanket or sleeping bag, they shared Alice's sleeping bag. Then after an awkward morning wood moment, they discussed the step to go through the 7 layers of hell. It was during this moment that the previous area, even the wall they just climbed, disappeared. The only way out of hell is through it. They went on to the first stage of hell, pride, which in this book is just another Cambridge. The people who stayed there for pride, which makes for a good look into the failure of academia, especially on actual material goods to others. The person in charge, an old professor from Cambridge, almost helped them, but Alice managed to fool him into a logical fallacy loop and they moved on to Lethe. There, Alice was lured by the forgetting river because it is so easy to just forget everything, let go of all the burdens she had. Thankfully, Peter was there to pull her out of the water. They went on their way and found a creature that resembles a chalk-colored dog. Peter let his defense down near the dog and got attacked, but thankfully the dog is afraid of the water and won't come near it, so it saved them. But chalk also means there's another magician around, and judging from how the dog attacked Peter, they are not friendly to say the least. But when they try to use their chalk to cast magic to help them find the professor, they found out that they cannot use their chalk to draw their magic in hell. Hell ate the chalk before it can conjure up magic. You need enchanted items in hell which they only have on their water canteen, so they are magicians stuck in hell without magic. But they can only move forward, and for what it worth, Archimedes, the academic cat who is taking a leisurely stroll in hell, was attacked by the dogs too and joined them. The group went on to the second level of hell, last, and stayed very briefly there because Alice had such a strong negative reaction to what she saw that she even vomited. But outside, they immediately got attacked again by the dogs. Yes, dogs now, plural. Alice managed to fend them off by filling her canteen with Lethe water, but the dogs managed to sink her to the river, which strangely doesn't affect her memory. That's when she told Peter the experiment that the professor did on her by engraving her body with a sigil that makes her not able to forget things. It's a permanent tattoo inked with that animal's blood that sometimes broke her mind. And that turned into the first unguarded conversation they had with each other during the trip. But when they took turns to sleep to guard against the dog, Alice reached Peter's note on hell that was sticking out of his back and found evidence that he might be trying to kill her to save the professor. That misunderstanding caused more rift between them because it made Alice make a mistake when they faced the Weaver goddess, who is now staying in hell after she followed her dead lover who abandoned her to get reincarnated. They unexpectedly get help from the dog, not out of goodwill, but because they wanted them and they couldn't care less what the goddess wanted. And the one who came to their rescue was a woman wielding a spear. An old apprentice of Professor Grime who ended her own life but regrets it and is now looking for a way out of hell. An old apprentice of Professor Grime who ended her own life but regrets it and is now looking for a way out of hell by finding the great paradox, dialetheia, a statement that is somehow both true and false at the same time. And Alice is convinced that they need to take that true paradox before their savior because it might just be their ticket out of hell. The duo will continue their journey through hell, facing more things, especially themselves, and it's just such a well-written character progression and their changing chemistry with each other. It's not as good as Babel because that story is lightning in a bottle, so I don't think writing something too similar to it will produce the same result, but this is still really good. Instead of a conversation about colonialism, imperialism that Babel was formed from, it's a great look into the dysfunctional system of modern academia and why it felt like it is being run by gerontocracy who clings to their old ways. So of course they will eventually find out it's not the professor that they should help, but each other since this is a romance after all. While it has its cliché and trope, it is well-written clichés because the cliché is not the only thing that the story had. It's also everything else I have mentioned packaged in a retelling of Alice in Wonderland and Dante's Inferno, a modern version of Virgil's Hell where hell will mirror back all your mistakes and at the end of it, you have to figure out how to take responsibility, confess your sin in a deeper way that is not just you trying to absolve your guilt, then to find hope for the future despite all of that. This book is amazing. I give this a 4.75. What do you think? Let me know if I miss anything, so leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it. See ya.